Krishna. Hello, dear devotees, accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for joining today. Hare Krishna, dear Mataji Madani,
Hare
happy to
Krishna.
see you. We're
Hare
going to
Krishna,
begin.
Mataji.
Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namo Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Yadeshatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astatari Shatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivastadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Ragaragitai, Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Gaura Primarande, Hari Hari Om. Hare Krishna. How is everyone else today? I'm going to try to see if I can open the stories about Guru Maharaj. That website is not opening for me. Other devotees who have this book are not here today, so we'll begin with reading the book The Journey Home on page 173. Madhava insisted that I travel to Goa, where the climate, he said, would be excellent for my health. He even offered to buy me a ticket by ship. It seemed like the arrangement of destiny, so I accompanied him to the docks in Bombay and boarded a crowded boat that carried me 250 miles south along the coast of the Arabian Sea. After playing smoothly for the better part of a day, I reached my destination, a tropical paradise with endless beaches of soft sand and balmy air scented with sea salt. Starting in the 16th century, Goa had been the headquarters of Portugal's Asian Empire. At that time, St. Francis Xavier, a Jesuit priest, converted tens of thousands of locals to Christianity. In 1961, Indian troops invaded Goa, defeating the Portuguese forces. Arriving at the beachfront, I saw stretches of white sands, crystal seas, and scores of coconut trees. To pass the time, I traveled to Calangute Beach, a haven for Westerners who rented inexpensive houses there. Walking the beach, I passed men and women kissing and groping each other, heard rock and roll blaring, and saw drugs openly consumed. It was the same old scene I had left behind in Europe, but it now seemed too alien, like something from a past life. Uninterested, I walked through the sand along the sea. I caught myself mentally criticizing them as if I were superior. I didn't want these thoughts, which exposed my own arrogance. I prayed to be purified from my own pollution of fault finding, but it was so hard. Living with the animals in the jungles was so much easier as they didn't so thoroughly expose my own shortcomings. About a kilometer further, I came upon drug addicts, all from the west, scattered along the seashore, sticking needles in their arms. They had come so far to one of the most beautiful places on earth only to suffer the miseries of addiction. Quickening my pace, I arrived at a small mountain at the end of the beach. I climbed over its boulders, panting the exhaustion until I reached the other side. There, a tropical paradise lay before me. The plush white sands of the beach extended hundreds of yards. Groves of coconut trees swayed in the wind, and not a single human being could be seen. This would be my home for the next week. For 7 days I sat under a coconut tree absorbed in study, meditation, and prayer. With the exception of a few poor fishermen rowing their boats into the sea each morning, the place was deserted. For my daily meal I climbed a sloping coconut tree, shook down a fruit, and to open it repeatedly smashed it against a rock. For my daily hygiene I bathed in the sea, and for my bed I stretched out on the sand under the starry sky. One day I took a walk inland. There, nestled in countless coconut trees, I found a few scattered huts made of mud and dry coconut leaves, all built on the sand. The inhabitants, most of whom had converted to Christianity, followed the tradition of their ancestors as fishermen with no assets but a rowboat, two oars, and a net. From sunrise to sunset the men labored in the sea under the burning sun, which blotched many of their faces with what looked like skin cancer. But hard work left them no time to dwell on such details. I thought how Jesus had made his first disciples from among fishermen, and then ordered them to be the fishers of men. On another day, as I was walking along the coastline, I found a tiny fish flapping desperately in the sand. A wave had washed it ashore. The fish's fear and desperation awoke my sympathy. He and I were not so different after all, and I resolved no return him to his home in the sea. But each time I picked him up, he frantically flapped right out of my hand, so fearful he couldn't recognize me as a friend. Finally, I trapped him in my cupped hands and hurled him back into the water. Still, my sense of satisfaction was short-lived. The next wave washed onto the shore, then receded back into the sea, leaving the same little fish once again flapping in the sand. Again I cast him into the water, and again the next wave left him in the sand to die. The next time, with much difficulty, I held him inside my cupped palms, thread into the ocean up to my neck, and then hurled him in as far as I could. I returned to the shore and observed wave after wave washing in and out until I was satisfied that the little fish was safe. Walking some distance, I came upon a group of fishermen dragging a net from their boat onto the sand. The net was filled with hundreds of such little fish, flapping for life and doomed to the frying pan. What could I do? I stared soberly into the sea and walked by immersed in thought. We're all like fish that have separated from the sea of divine consciousness. For a person to be happy outside his or her natural relation with God is like a fish trying to enjoy life outside of the water. On the dry sand, holy people go to great extremes to help even one person to return to his or her natural spiritual consciousness, to the sea of true joy. But the net of Maya or illusion snatches away the minds of the masses, diverting us from our true self-interest. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, does anybody have a book or opportunity to read? I'm on page 175.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Please,
I'm think sorry I'm late. I'm able to share now if you can make me co-host.
sure.
Thank you. Shall I read Mataji
Yes,
from
please.
when I had first set?
Yes.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. When I had first set out on my spiritual journey, my idea had been to learn as much as possible from various paths and teachers, and then take from each path the practice that was most effective for me. This was a popular idea in the 1960s, but in India, I began to realize the superficiality of it. I had seen many spiritualists with this idea, but the depth of their realization seemed vague. Those who impressed me as advanced had committed themselves to a particular path. I had come to understand that my traveling from place to place and teacher to teacher had its limitations. Part of my hesitation to accept initiation into one religion, I realized, had to do with a fear of division from others. Still, I knew I would need to choose in order to progress. Not doing so was becoming painful. But which path and which teacher were mine? How would I ever know for sure? Already, many great teachers have enlightened me with knowledge of different paths and experiences I didn't deserve. I see spiritual beauty in all of them. Which direction should I go at this crossroads in my life? That night, I prayed for guidance and drifted into sleep. In the middle of the night, I awoke to a crescent moon that shone in the dark sky. Within the embrace of this crescent, a single star sparkled. It was the symbol of Islam, a sign of submission to God. I stared in wonder, my heart reassured. I accepted this as a sign that the mystery I had been contemplating would be revealed to me in due time. From Goa, I sailed back to Bombay and began my return journey to the Himalayas. I traveled by train to Delhi and then northwest to the town of Pathankot near the border of Jammu and Kashmir state. From there, I journeyed east on the back of a truck to the Himalayan town of Dharmashala in Himachal Pradesh. Summer was approaching and the forest was bursting with blooming flowers of orange, yellow, violet, and white. Huge ancient trees were cloaked in shining green leaves, and a constant buzz of wildlife energized the atmosphere. High on a mountain ridge above Dharmasala reigned Miklod Ganja, a Tibetan refugee camp and the home to the Dalai Lama of Tibet. In preparation for my pilgrimage to his mountaintop monastery, I read a book he had written entitled My Land and My People. I learned that Lhamo Dondrub was born in 1935 in a simple Tibetan house made of stone and mud to a family of poor farmers. A search party of exalted monks was directed to this house by the regent of Tibet, who had a vision revealing that this was the place where the next Dalai Lama had been born. When the child was only 2, they came to the house in the guise of travelers seeking refuge. Around one monk's neck hung the beads of the previous Dalai Lama, which the child grabbed, claiming them to be his own. After several visits and consequent tests, the committee concluded it had found the 14th incarnation of Shenzrezeg, the Bodhisattva of compassion, who is believed to guide the Tibetan people to spiritually and politically by reincarnating in each generation as the Dalai Lama. The boy was conveyed to the monastery in Lhasa, where he was groomed to be the head of state and spiritual leader of a nation. During the childhood years of his reign, Tibet flourished. But in 1950, the Chinese military invaded, and by 1959, the nation was torn by bitter agitation and violence. On the insistence of his people, who feared for his life, he had to flee from his beloved homeland. The Dalai Lama prayed in the temple of Lord Buddha and offered a shawl of white silk at the altar as a symbol of farewell with the intent to return. With a heavy heart, he shed his monk robes in the guise of a soldier. He escaped the palace in the dark of night. Through heavy snow, torrential rains, and bitter cold, he and his party trekked across the rugged mountains of Tibet like fugitives. All the while, his heart was breaking at the plight of his people. Struck by disease, exhaustion, and what he referred to as unhappiness deeper than I can express, he crossed the border into India. Gripped by his amazing story of exile, fate, and overcoming hardship, I was compelled to see the place where the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism had made his new home. By the time I arrived in 1971, Miklod Ganja, nestled in the high forested mountains and steep valleys of the Himalayas, looked like a little Tibet. The refugees, dressed in their traditional clothes and constructed wooden or brick buildings in the Tibetan style of architecture, with dragons and other mythical beings carved or painted in rich colors onto their pillars and arches. Yaks grazed on the hillsides, and a few scattered Western pilgrims found secluded places to meditate. Just as in Tibet, many of the men were Buddhist monks. In the center of the village, the faithful circumambulated a large rectangular area surrounded by prayer wheels, all the while spinning the wheels and chanting the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. I knew from my reading that the Tibetan Buddhists believed this mantra invoked the blessings of Shenzrezig, the embodiment of compassion, and that all the teachings of Buddha were contained in it. Shall I continue, Mataji? Yeah.
You can give a word to Nanda Vilas Prabhu since he's able to talk now. He's at work. Thank you so much. You
Hare
can
Krishna.
stop.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. You can stop whenever it's convenient for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. The people in McLeodganj were incredibly friendly, glowing with smiles. They welcomed me whenever I went, despite the hardship they had endured and despite being refugees in a foreign land. They seemed at peace. I saw no beggars or cheaters among them. Everyone looked content. One family welcomed me into their small home and served me a Tibetan noodle soup called thupka and traditional tea made with yak's butter and salt. This tea was especially effective at keeping a person warm during the cold Himalayan nights. My heart was so charmed by the people here that I often spent hours just watching them perform their daily chores as they grinned at me from ear to ear. Not far from Dalai Lama's house stood the temple of magnificent deity of Buddha, sitting in the lotus posture. Both the monks and the common people worshipped the golden form of the Buddha by offering incense, bells, lamps, and gifts. The puja or worship ceremony fascinated me. The monks sat in two lines facing one another with the Buddha in the center. They read from scriptures inscribed on shelves of unbound parchment leaves. Each leaf was placed on top of the previous as they recited ancient prayers in unison at auspicious intervals. Some monks blew long trumpet-like horns, others rang ritualistic bells, and others struck large gongs with wooden mallets and beat upon huge drums with sticks. As the vibration reached its crescendo, a high priest ceremoniously raised a scepter crafted of intricately molded brass. The dorji was an transceiver of spiritual energy. Decorating the walls with the temple were artwork called tantras, painted in vibrant color, designed to aid enlightenment by depicting history and symbolism of Buddhism. The fragrance of burning oil lamps and sweet incense further lifted my mind as I sat with the monks meditating and chanting mantras. I was particularly struck by the love and honor the people held for their Dalai Lama, for the Tibetans. He had the spiritual power of a pope and the political authority of a king. His photograph was prominently displayed in every shop and home. One early morning, while I was meditating in the temple, a tall, elderly Lama with shaved head, maroon robes, and a strand of wooden beads draped around his neck sat beside me, and he said that he had been observing me for several days and asked if I would like to ask any questions. We spent a couple of hours each day together. On one very special afternoon, he invited me to join him for a personal audience with the Dalai Lama. The home of Dalai Lama rested on a wooded hill surrounded by armed Indian military guards, who, because he was under constant threat of death, were stationed for his protection. Passing through the security, I was ushered into a room where brightly colored paintings of Buddha and the great bodhisattvas decorated the walls. A beautiful metal deity of Buddha sat on the altar decorated with flowers, brass lamps, bells, and other items of worship. Cedar scented incense perfumed the air. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for reading, Prabhu. Gitika, Laurel, would you like to read?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Deity of Buddha sat on an
Minutes
altar.
later. From minutes later.
Okay. Minutes later, a door opened and the Dalai Lama glanced toward me, eyes sparkling with joy behind his brown-rimmed glasses. His large head was shaven, and he had a square face, low rounded nose, and draped a maroon robe over a bright golden monk shirt. Beaming a contagious smile, he sprinted across the room to greet me. Laughing aloud, he tightly gripped both of my hands and shook them again and again. His eyes twinkled with glee as he spoke in a hearty voice. You have come from far away. I welcome you. We sat on two chairs across from one another. With a childlike curiosity, he asked me about my life in America and why I had chosen the life of a sadhu. As I told my story, he listened to every word with rapt attention and concern. Whenever there was a trace of humor in my tale, his whole body shook with laughter and he clapped his hands together. We spoke for perhaps a half hour when I asked him about the condition of his people in Tibet. A wave of introspection then swept across his face and tears welled in his eyes. In the silence that now surrounded us, he whispered, when I was a boy, my nation enjoyed freedom. We were a happy and untied people, and our spirituality was flourishing. He paused for a long moment. In sober silence, he lifted a teapot to offer me a cup of Tibetan tea. I watched as the steaming tea poured from the spout into my cup. The Dalai Lama then returned the teapot to its place and lowered his head in deep thought, as if looking with his mind's eye and feeling in his heart the strife of his people across the Himalayan peaks in Tibet. He added it tenderly, we owe a great debt to India for providing shelter to thousands of our people. The universal quality of religion, he went on, his compassion to other living beings, to sacrifice for the good of others is true dharma. Seeing the immense sacrifice he extended for his people, his words struck my heart. Meditation, study, and worship, he said, give us the inner strength to live as kind and enlightened beings. His message invoked introspection and his personality inspired reverence, but his affection had made me feel to be his intimate friend. Smiling, the Dalai Lama graciously placed around my neck a white silken shawl embroidered with Tibetan mantras. It is a tradition to offer this gift to all my special guests. He said, I, I felt undeserving of his time and kindness and bowed my head with gratitude. In his company, the virtue of selfless service was becoming more prominent in my mind. He was a person dedicated not only to his spiritual principles but also to taking on the massive burden of serving the needs of his people who were either in exile or under subjugation. He had endured incomparable challenges and obstacles in his apparently hopeless struggle. Tolerating exile and threats, he served his people. In my mind, this is what the shawl represented. It was a special gift. Shall I continue, Mataji?
Can ask if Mataji Vardhana wishes to continue. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna all the devotees. On a forested mountainside, I took up residence in a cave that overlooked a steep valley. There I survived on a food called stampa, a dry powder made of roasted barley. When water is added, it becomes like a porridge. Tibetan monks taught me how to survive on stampa as this does not spoil. Having this simplified my bodily needs, each day I was able to come down to Macleod Ganga to learn from the people there. Nights I returned to my cave. One night, as I lay on the rock floor, a gigantic spider crawled along the wall just inches away from my space. It moved its hairy black body slowly, lifting one leg at a time until it disappeared into a hole about 6 inches from my face. As a small child, I have been terrified of spiders. Any time one entered our house, I would run away from it, crying for my mother to remove it. This cave deviling spider was the most ferocious I had ever seen. This is a test from God. I must overcome this fear, I thought. From that night on, the two of us respectfully shared the cave. From where I meditated, I noticed Cropper occasionally sheltering about in the forest. At times, I had other roommates as well. One night, a huge scorpion fell from the ceiling. Inches from me, it wagged its deadly stinger from side to side. At that moment, my only candle burning is its last, and the cave became pitch black. I felt it unwise to move and so sat motionless in the darkness for a long time. In this state, I recalled fatherly Kailash Baba and how he taught me the proper consciousness around snakes and scorpions. Breathing slowly, I prayed to God to help me to overcome judgment, hatred, and fear. One morning in my cave, my mind differed across continents and see to my father in the Chicago suburb of Highland Park. Unsure about my own direction, I was nonetheless feeling that the greatest act of love I could offer him was to write a letter encouraging him to come closer to God in the way that would be that would be most natural for him. With the with the conviction of youth, not yet knowing my own path, I wrote, My beloved Father, I would like to ask something very dear of you. Much of the compassion that you have is reflected from my beloved Grandpa Bill. I believe that the root of his compassion was his all embracing faith in her hybrid religion. Grandpa implanted within you the seed of love for Judaism. Please nourish this seed with all the sincerity to attain the inspiration of your faith and love for God. I feel that this sacred gift of meditation will give you great insight to reach the depths of Judaism. Hebrew, as well as the other great religions, can bring all of us closer to the Lord. Please carry on this inspiration of your father and forefathers. I believe this is what you truly want. Richard McLean Ganga, Dharmashala, Himachal Pradesh, India, May 1971. For the most part, on my guest throughout India, I had no companion with whom I could reveal my heart. My associates either spoke no English or was great, powerful sages far senior to me in age. At times I was lonely, but I here to release loneliness as a way to cultivate my connection to God. Silent prayer became the medium through which I could pour out my thoughts and feelings. The serenity of meditation was my shelter from the restlessness of my mind and world around me. While reassuring my family about my welfare, I was often impelled to use these letters to open my heart even to recipients who might find my words difficult to comprehend. Sometimes, too, I would reveal my heart onto a small writing pad. One sunny day, While sitting alone in the solitude of my mountain cave, I wrote the following to no one. In the mind of hermit, in troubled times, when a man is tired and weary, confused as to where he is going and what he has left to fail behind, he doesn't know whether to cling to or to let go forever of those things that still remain with him. Where to go for one who has for forsaken friend and home. What to do for one who wanders alone in the wildness of his even solitude? Should we break the walls that he had constructed around himself, or should he build the stronger and higher? He he pleads, O Lord, he pled, O Lord, is there a simple sorry, who can show me the O Lord, is there a guide who can show me the way to you? Where shall such a homeless man reside who believes that home is not in this moral world? Shall I continue, Mataji?
Perhaps you can stop here. Thank you so much.
Hare
You
Krishna.
can read a little bit from the book. It so happened because we didn't read in the beginning. Yes, Prabhu, if possible, please.
Yes, Mataji. The pastimes.
Yes, please.
Okay, yes, Mataji.
Dear devotees, in the meantime, maybe you have something that you wish to share about what we just read from the book, The Journey Home. I just wanted to share that I got a reminder how important for us to realize how much our teachers are giving us. Just like starting with Srila Prabhupada, with his guru, with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's father, and of course our Guru Maharaj, and so many other teachers nowadays. They're giving us so much, and for us just not to take it seriously and continue living or taking Krishna consciousness casually. It's almost like a sin. It's in a way, especially when we don't share this knowledge with others, with everybody around us. It's like us being greedy in a way. How many people around us are still in this fire of material life. They're in this extreme condition of going through this cycle of samsara over and over again, and we're watching all of this, and many times we're just not even doing anything about it. We're just, like living another day, like doing our sadhana, doing maybe something for our family, but not striving to do much more than that. So, uh, for myself and inviting you all, dear devotees, let's try to do something more each day, like thinking every day, what else can we do? How we can distribute prashadam? How we can distribute books? Who can we share this knowledge with? And everybody can do in their different manners. But I think it's our duty of each one of us, since we got this mercy, we have to share this mercy with everyone else. So um, let's meditate on it, and maybe next time we can share with each other what about your ideas, or what did you manage to do, and we can inspire each other to do more and more, because I feel like it's our duty. have any thoughts on what I just said? I'll be happy to hear. If not,
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much for sharing. This is Maharaj gives um, this sentiment or the feeling of keeping gratitude to to our teachers and what we have received, and and Maharaj exemplifies this also. You know, he not only talks about it but exemplifies this. So we learn from Maharaj how we should be grateful for what we have received. I think Maharaj mentions this so many times in his lectures about this point. And in our process, in our parampara, we also are taught that there's no way to repay our teachers for what we have received. The only way we can attempt to please them is to share it to other with others in different ways. And of course, like Maharaj is talking about his father, the letter to his father. The one point Maharaj mentions that he wanted to encourage him to find his way in the way that felt most natural for him. So he didn't want to force any of his own. Maharaj did not want to force any of his own thoughts or feelings onto someone else, and we never that still never does that, but just encourages them, everyone, to find their own calling. He encouraged his father to pursue his Judaism that he had received from his father, and and find his own way to God. Hare Krishna.
please, strange Prabhu, thank you for sharing. I definitely cannot impose on anyone our beliefs. However, certain laws of nature that would be the same for anyone. And chanting of the holy names in any tradition will be very auspicious. So I'm hoping to learn one day to speak in such a way that people who hear about me for the first time would not feel like overwhelmed or feel like I'm um, speaking in sectarian ways. And that's my desire to learn how to preach in such a way without like an ahimsa way, I guess. Okay, we can read the story about Guru Maharaj. Anybody wishes to read the story? You may just unmute yourself. Mataji Manali, are you available to read? Or you're still cooking? Yeah, I will read the first story. Austerity of monkhood. During a discourse, Radhanath Swami was relating the story of a saint who gave benedictions to a prince, a butcher, and a monk. I sat in the front row of the audience, listening. The prince indulged in sinful ways of enjoyment, maddened by wealth. If he were to die, only the karma of suffering awaited him. So the saint blessed the prince. May you live forever. The butcher lived a miserable life of killing innocent animals, and even after death, miserable karma awaited him. So the saint blessed the butcher. May you neither live nor die. And what about the monk? At this juncture, Ranaswami glanced at me. Monk's life is full of austerity. Take him for an example. He was referring to me. He is a graduate from IIT, which is considered at par with Ivy League schools, and yet here in this ashram he sleeps on the floor and has a little closet to keep his belongings. He went on for another few minutes, which seemed a few hours to me, describing what I did and what an exemplary monk I was. Um, An audience of 2,000 sat in rapt attention. Monk's life is a pious life, so his next life, will be glorious. His present life, nonetheless, is filled with austerity, he concluded. Now, getting back to the benediction story, he said, so the saint blessed that the monk died. No sooner did he speak that, he turned to me again with an apologetic expression. I don't want you to die. I'm just continuing with the story. It had all happened spontaneously. He had showered his appreciation and affection, but the ending was a bit sour. He thought my feelings were hurt, though that wasn't the case. In my years of association with Radhanath time and again I have observed how sensitive and careful he is in making sure he doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. The next evening I met Radhanath in the ashram corridors. He called me closer and embraced me affectionately, an affection I will never forget. May you live a long life as a monk, he blessed me. With an affectionate spiritual father like him, the austerity of monkhood seems insignificant. So who wants to die? Siddheshwar.
Hare Krishna. I was trying to find out who this devotee is because there's so many pastimes shared by this devotee. They did write his initiated name. Couldn't find out. But I have some guess, but I don't want to guess. Hare Krishna.
Would you like to read the story, Prabhu?
I can try. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Head versus Heart. On 14th May, a plane crashed in Jomsam, Nepal, and among those killed were 8 Krishna conscious devotees from Mumbai. Radhanath Swami's reaction to the disaster revealed the heart of a transcendentalist on the bhakti path. A bhakti yogi realizes that the soul is eternal, beyond death, and that understanding keeps the yogi equipoised in the face of death of a dear one. Yet the yogi feels separation, for now the medium of exchange of spiritual love, which was the material body, is no longer functional. Radhanath Swami said in the memorial ceremony, quote, when I learned about it, the shock was so immense that it was difficult to try to philosophically reason. Sometimes things that affect the heart so deeply, we simply have to take shelter of the Lord. What is beyond our intelligence, what is beyond our ability to deal with is a time when we can helplessly cry out for Krishna. Unquote. Adhanath Swami cut short his tour of the United States to return to Mumbai and help the near and dear ones of the departed take shelter of Krishna. Few of us went to the airport to receive Radhanath Swami. As we drove back to the ashram, Radhanath Swami spoke of the eternality of the soul. He explained how the eternal souls of the devotees killed were under the loving care of Krishna. As a discussion ensued, a fellow monk chimed in, quote, I flew to Jomsam the day after the crash to collect the bodies of these devotees. Unquote. To the surprise of everyone around, Radhanath Swami responded appallingly, quote, why did you go there? Unquote. Silent moments passed. Radhanath Swami was disturbed that another dear devotee had risked going to the same place. But this trip made by the monk was necessary, or else how could the dead bodies be procured for the last rites? I went to collect the bodies, reiterated the monk. Again silence. But, but, why did you go there? Radhanath Swami sighed. I thought this sweetness of spiritual love amid a balanced philosophical approach to life is what makes Bhakti Yoga beautiful. Written by Krishnadas. Hare Krishna.
We can stop here and we can discuss and just talk with each other. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, would you like to comment anything you just read?
The Hare Krishna. The Maharaj talked about living in the caves and being lonely, and that was a little bit intimate. I mean, I've never seen Maharaj talk in the book many times. Maharaj talks what he was thinking, but he was describing how in the cave he wrote a letter to nobody, and he used to write in a notebook, and he didn't have anybody to open his heart to. And several times in the book, Maharaj talks about he prayed in several moments. He just prayed, and it's a subtle thing, but Maharaj, it's an instruction in our parampara too. Maharaj tells in lectures also that we have to take shelter of Krishna at every moment. And this is what Maharaj has been doing even before, meeting Prabhupada. Every time he was struck, he was in trouble, he was in distress, he just prayed. And I feel that this part gets missed or forgotten because we don't see Krishna. So we feel like who's listening? But Maharaj has been exemplifying this, that we just pray and Krishna listens. And of course, reciprocation proves it. We see it sometimes that we pray and it happens. And that also sometimes we feel like, oh, it's a coincidence and we move on. But it's not a coincidence. It's a response to the prayer by a person who cannot come before us but is trying to send signals. So it's just everything that Maharaj does and his whole life and everything he says and his interactions with his god brothers, his disciples, and even before coming to Krishna consciousness, uh, everything just fits together perfectly. There's nothing that feels like, okay, this doesn't make sense. This one thing doesn't make sense. Everything else is fine. There's nothing like that. Even before coming to Krishna consciousness, everything perfectly made sense. It just fits together. It's just a complete picture, complete whole, with no gaps and nothing sticking out. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, definitely. Guru Maharaj is already came with a mission, already prepared to serve in the mission of Srila Prabhupada and the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and we are just getting the mercy and all the blessings. The fortunate. But Jay Gitika, uh, how are you? I was wondering where you from.
Krishna Mataji,
Hare Krishna.
I'm just loving just hearing about Guru Maharaj. So wonderful. Whatever you just shared, what was that? Is this was letters? Mataji. You shared something just
Oh
after
yeah,
the reading. Those are
it's a website, Mataji, that has Guru Maharaj's pastimes. Anuradha Leela Mataji found out about it, and we've been reading, and many devotees don't know about it, but it's an amazing website where disciples and friends have shared personal pastimes with Guru Maharaj from many different areas. Actually, there's a theme to it. There are 6 qualities of a saint that are described in the beginning, and there's a pastime related to each of the 6 qualities that showed Maharaj's each of the 6 qualities, and they're just wonderful, each of them. Hare Krishna.
okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji and Mataji, for sharing.
Yes, the devotees who compiled it, who wrote the stories, who shared with us this website. Thanks to them, we have an opportunity to learn more about Guru Maharaj. We hope to see you more often, Mataji. Please come next week.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Mataji Vardhan, how are you today? Thank you
Yes,
for
ma'am.
joining.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
I'm good, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving this opportunity to read Maharaj pastimes.
He's giving us these opportunities. Thank you for being here. I've heard that Guru Maharaj will be in Alachua, Florida, sometime in May before Sadhu Sangam. And Alachua is 3 hours away from me, so I'm really praying for the opportunity to meet him very soon. I hope that his health is well now, because I've heard that he had to stop doing some giving initiations for that reason as well. So I hope he's better now.
So, is there any initiation plans, Mataji, when Maharaj is in Alachua?
I really don't know.
So, before Sadhu Sangha or after Sadhu Sangha, Maharaj will be there in Alachua?
I think before, I'm not sure. Where are you located?
I'm in Atlanta, Mataji.
Oh, you're close to me, 4 hours away.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Please come to our Sunday feast.
Oh,
I'm
sure,
trying to
Mataji.
organize Sunday feast every week at 4 o'clock at
Oh.
our home. So
Sure,
if
Mataji.
you ever arrive, please come for lunch
Sure,
or
Mataji.
something. You can contact if you would like to. It would be wonderful to meet you in person.
Definitely, ma'am.
Mataji Manali, how are you today? She's occupied. Okay, dear devotees, if you nothing else to share today, maybe we can end here and meet each other next week.
Yes, Mataji.
विकल्पतृतीयश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय दरबार की जय गुरु महाराज की जय
Jai.
Oh, see you next time.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.